Hello, today's ESDN live interactive video cooking class is related to finding a replacement to mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is heavy in dairy, so we're looking to find a replacement to that mac and cheese dish. Mac and cheese was originally introduced into the United States by Thomas Jefferson in the 1790s. Prior to that, it was an Italian dish that was adopted by the French and English in the 1760s. Thomas Jefferson, while in Europe, loved the dish, and so he brought it to the United States. And since that time, mac and cheese has exploded in popularity. The problem is that 68% of the world population is lactose intolerant. That means it cannot handle dairy. So we have found a substitute dish that is hearty and very comforting to eat. And we call this dish Wheaty Noodles. Wheaty Noodles is a great dish that is actually American made. The wheat flakes or corn flakes were originally come from the United States from the Kellogg family, and the noodles that have been put with them have been created a American dish that is a treat and is delicious to eat, and there is no need for dairy in this particular dish. This recipe for Wheaty Noodles has been passed down for several generations. I am the third generation to enjoy this lovely dish. My grandmother, Johanna Pastrick, her maiden name, brought this dish from Pennsylvania. So Wheaty Noodles originated somewhere in the great state of Pennsylvania before it was brought here to the Midwest. One of the things that's nice about Wheaty Noodles is it can be made quickly and easily. So let's take a look at the ingredients. The first ingredient is 1 12-ounce bag or 6 cups of Hungarian noodles or flat egg noodles. You can get the noodles made either with egg or without. They are usually wheat noodles, and in some cases you can find gluten-free noodles. Most big box stores and your local grocery store should have a form of flat white noodles. Once you find these, you want to make the noodles in about 4 cups of boiling water with about a teaspoon of salt, and it should look like this. The next ingredient is 3/4 cup of margarine. This isn't melted margarine, it's actually margarine cut up into little cubes that you can actually place individually into the noodle mixture. The reason you want to place these cubes individually into the noodle mixture is so that you can mix them in so that the butter gets spread throughout all the noodles. We happen to be using I Can't Believe It's Not Butter, which is a great margarine or non-dairy butter substitute. The next ingredient, 1 12-ounce box or 6 cups of wheat flakes or corn flakes. That's depending on your preference. You can use either wheat or corn flakes for this recipe. We happen to be using corn flakes, and we're going to be putting in a cup at a time. So here, as I'm stirring in the butter to make sure that's with the noodles, I'm going to add 1 cup of the corn flakes, and once I put that in, I can then gradually stir in those corn flakes. Now we're going to go back and forth between adding corn flakes and butter here for the next couple steps. We want to make sure that the corn flakes are evenly spread throughout the noodles. So the next thing we're going to do is to add more of the cubes of butter. So out of that 3/4 cup of margarine, we're going to take another couple cubes and put that into to the noodles and just mix that butter around with the noodles and the corn flakes. So after we've mixed that butter in there, we're going to add another cup of the corn flakes actually into the mixture of noodles and flakes here. So we're going to go ahead and pour in the second cup, and we're just going to mix that into the noodles to get that nice and evenly spread throughout. And you can use other brands of flakes, either wheat flakes or corn flakes. We happen to be using the generic flakes for this particular recipe. The next part of the recipe is 2 teaspoons of salt. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the salt gradually, a little bit at a time. So I've put the 2 teaspoons in this little cup, and what I'm going to do is just sprinkle a little bit of the 2 teaspoons of salt in, and then like I did with the cups of wheat flakes, I'm going to go ahead and slowly mix that in. The final ingredient for this recipe is 3 teaspoons of yeast flakes. These yeast flakes add a really powerful taste to it. It actually gives you a Parmesan-like cheese taste. We're actually using a red mill yeast flakes for this particular recipe. Now I'm just going to add a couple of them and sprinkle them in here, and it really adds a Parmesan feel for it. It's not cheese, so it's not dairy, but it gives you that Parmesan cheese flavor for this actual dish. The last part of this recipe is just going back and forth, adding gradually more of the corn flakes or wheat flakes, and then adding more margarine chunks into the actual mixture, and then adding a little salt and some of the yeast flakes into this actual mixture. So you're just going to go back and forth a few times until you have everything well mixed, and it should be ready to go. And that is all you need to do for this dish, and you have completed a easy to make substitute for mac and cheese. I hope that your family will enjoy this recipe as much as mine does. It is a family staple, and we love it during the holidays. With holidays coming up, please enjoy this substitute for mac and cheese called Wheaty Noodles. Thank you very much.